welcome to Talking Tillies. My name is Josh. Thanks for coming along to our first episode. This is our preseason. We're going to introduce who we are, what we're looking to do this year, looking ahead, and also talk about some big news that's happened in the past couple of weeks. But joining me, Cody, Michelle. Hi, guys. How's it going?
Brilliant, mate. Just happy to be here, I guess, yeah.
I am also good.
That is fantastic. We are all good and ready to go, guys. The first couple of episodes, we'll probably stumble our way through as we try to find our feet behind our mics. But my name's Josh. I've come from the theatre world. I've come with very little football brain. That's why I've got these two here to help me stumble along. They're going to be the brains behind the operation. I'm going to be guiding them through the way. But yeah, that is who I am. I'm based in Newcastle supporter. I'm a Manchester United supporter overseas. But yeah, Michelle?
I'm Michelle Morris TV. If you're new and you don't know me, please follow me on Instagram. If you already know who I am, I'm sure you're glad to hear my voice again on another podcast. But for those who don't know, I'm a big Sydney FC supporter, and I do enjoy watching the Arsenal women every now and then when they don't get injured. That's me.
Cody.
Yeah, I'm surprised Michelle actually needed an introduction. I feel like most people that are going to be listening to this already know who she is anyway. Look, Cody, you might know me as a common football fan. Been doing my thing for over a year now, actually. I can't believe how long it's been. But yeah, no, obviously this basically came about because, Josh, I remember you saying you had an idea at 2 o'clock in the morning and decided to shoot me a message, and next thing you know, you and Michelle are on a podcast. But yeah, no, look, I'm based in Sydney as well, over in the western sides. Lovely place it is. Please come visit. Not really much else I can say, I guess. I just love my Aussie football, love the women's football. At the end of the day, football's football, and I guess the Matildas as well over the World Cup has been inspiring for so many people, and to be able to put a project together like this obviously started from you, Josh, but to see really come off the ground and see where it's going to go, I think it's actually going to be, hopefully it will be an important part of the football landscape. Hopefully it'll be a big part of the football landscape, and it helps all of us on a personal level, but also helps women's football grow as well.
100%. And that's kind of what we're here for, is continuing that conversation from the World Cup and kind of bringing, maybe some of you are brand new to the game, kind of like I am. Your knowledge of what's going on in the world right now is centered mainly around those 23 players that represented Australia so well at the World Cup. And we're going to open your eyes to where they are right now in their domestic leagues, and obviously the others that are on the fringe of the squad in the under-23s and below, but all the other players out in the A-League as well, what they're doing around the world, and bringing that to your perspective. And that's what we're going to talk about pretty much, which is daunting, looking at a map, but we're going to try and do it the best we can. Our focus is mainly going to be on the A-League here at home as that kind of kicks off. And we're also going to obviously have a massive focus on the WSL, where some of our top talent is. What are we most looking forward to this year, guys? Are there any things that are kind of poking out as top highlights, or things that we're going to keep one eye on the whole season all the way through?
Well, if you're talking domestically, I think it's just about how Australia reacts to what's happened over the last couple of months. I think there's a lot of people that might say it was a little bit precedented what happened in the World Cup, but personally, I was expecting sold-out stadiums. It's what the tournament deserved, but to see how many people, even outside of football and outside of even sport in general, there's so many people I've been talking to at work where they don't follow sport full stop, and it's like, oh yeah, I turned the Matildas on. It's just about getting behind your country. So seeing how that now translates to the A-League women's, and seeing how people get behind domestic football, I think we'll probably see a mix of some people that go, I just want to watch Matildas. I'm going to go get an Optus subscription. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that go, I want that feeling of being inside the stadium, because we started to realise how great it is to actually have football in front of you. So I know I heard some people say to get an average of 3,000 crowds across the A-League women's this season would be a massive testament to how the game's grown. Michelle, I reckon you're probably going to hope for more, but I think just hopefully we get to see it grow in some way, shape or form, whether it be crowd numbers, viewer numbers. Obviously, it's hard when the only place you can watch it is through a laptop screen half the time, but it's exciting. I think what's happening in our own backyard, that's got to be what you look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely looking at the crowd numbers is one thing to be excited about. I think that opening fixture between Sydney and Western Sydney is going to be huge numbers wise, especially because they'll be playing in the main stadium. I guess, I don't know. I think I'm just excited to see how the competition holds up. I think, the Mariners are coming back in, I should say, which is huge, especially considering how well their men's side did last season and the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot more investment going on in the club, maybe behind the scenes. And I guess, especially with Western United in their first season, how well they did, now to see, another team coming through, is it going to have the same effect? Are they going to, outshine? But regardless, I think the competition should be a lot more level. I think in past years, we've seen it's just been Sydney and Melbourne at the top for like the last 3-4 years or something. So it'll be interesting to see how the competition stacks up, and I think that's the exciting part.
Yeah, I think from like a Matildas perspective too, we've just seen today, as we're recording this, that the Matildas game against Philippines has just been moved from a smaller stadium into Optus Stadium as well. So the hype around the national team as well is still not dropped off after the World Cup, with moving into a massive stadium for more tickets and things like
Just
that,
on
which
that,
is really good.
What do you guys actually think about that? Because that's been controversial as anything over the last couple of weeks. And I know you see a lot more the traditional football heads, they don't like it. They want to see it at a proper football ground, especially considering it is a competitive fixture. But on the other hand, we're going to get an extra 40,000 people watching the Matildas. Like, there's positives and negatives to it. What do you guys think?
I have many thoughts and feelings on this. I think for me, look, it's good that they're moving to a bigger stadium. Obviously, like you said, there's going to be an extra 40,000 people in there cheering for the Matildas, potentially. But the other thing is frustrating is that, you buy these tickets early on because you are a fan already and you want to already have, you've already known about these fixtures well in advance. The tickets were on sale very early on in the year, and people knew about this for a very long time before the World Cup had started. So it wasn't anything new. It wasn't new information that these fixtures were coming out. I think it's good. It's only one game. It's not all three games. It's only the one. And it's on a Sunday afternoon. So it's probably the only game they could do, because the other games are on weeknights, I believe. But someone was telling me, she said that this could be, if they play in this stadium, right, it's an oval shape. It sucks to watch. Like, anyone who's watched a football game in an oval stadium knows how terrible the viewing is. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's that bad. And in hopes that all these people will then, maybe they will start to realize that, watching football in an oval shaped stadium isn't good viewing fixture. Like, maybe we should start pushing for our state governments to build more rectangular stadiums, because I think people also forget rectangular stadiums don't just have to be for football. They can be for concerts. They can be for rugby. There's, they take state of origin all over the state, like all over the country now. So it's not even really state of origin. So they use it for everything. So it's not one singular thing, which obviously would be nice in an ideal world, but we don't have the space and we don't have the money. But push your state governments to build more rectangular stadiums and we'll be happy.
I think the big thing with that too is that Western Australia's main draw cards have been cricket and AFL. They haven't really had the draw card for football, so this could open a massive door for that and swing that right in everyone's favour, which is awesome.
I feel like Perth could do with it as well if they're playing in they're not selling out a 20,000 seat stadium yet, so if they can get people on board during this period, whether it be for the men's or women's side, push for HBF Park to get upgraded, it wouldn't be a bad outcome for them. Like you said, Michelle, I'm glad it was only the one game, because if it was all three, you're ruining the viewing experience. Like, I bought tickets. You said, like, people have bought tickets, and people buy tickets early so they get good seats as well. The tickets that I got, albeit just after the World Cup, were smack bang right behind the goals. Now right behind the goals is going to be a good 50 metres back. Unlucky for me, I forgot that it's my Mrs. Mum's birthday that day, so I'm not able to go anyway. So waste of money in the end anyway.
I've actually been to that stadium as well. I was there for the 2019 grand final, men's grand final. And yeah, it sucks. Like, you're so far away from the action. I don't remember watching any actual football. I'm so glad that the penalties were in front of us. But again, like, it's just not good, like, viewing. Like, it's just really bad.
Yeah. Looking at what's just happened in the last week to you guys, we are recording just after the WSL transfer window has closed. Some big transfers, especially for our Aussie girls. I think the biggest one that kind of caught the most eyes was probably Kyra Cooney-Cross to Arsenal. Michelle, we know you're excited about that one, being a Gunners fan. News came out of nowhere, kind of swept up. There was rumours that she was going to stay put in Sweden until January and maybe go Chelsea or United. How do you feel seeing her in red and white?
I think it's hilarious. I actually just think this is the most Arsenal thing that they could do. Like, everyone else is waiting till January. Okay, we'll get her now then. We'll cough up the fee, which is kind of crazy that they've paid so much for Kyra Cooney-Cross. Like, and that's no disrespect to Kyra Cooney-Cross, but she's very young and not as what's the word I'm looking for? Like, she just hasn't played a lot. Like, in tough competitions. Like, Sweden is obviously a good competition. But yeah, I think she had a good World Cup tournament. So this is probably, telling of how much investment that Arsenal wants to put into her.
And like, no small fee. I think everything with bonuses and everything rounded out at nearly £250,000. So like, really huge fee for somebody that doesn't have that big playing time. Like, she had a really good World Cup, and testament to her for showing off and getting the eyes of all three big clubs kind of in that. I think it was just tournament too.
Ian Wright. I think Ian Wright was using his skills to try and pull her in.
There was something apparently during the World Cup. She mentioned something like, "Oh, right, he get me to Arsenal" or something like that. So was that maybe her?
he tweeted something and she responded to it. She did an interview and responded to it. Right, he get me to Arsenal, because he tweeted something during one of the games, Cooney-Cross, bro, and was like, and then she responded to it or something like that, and that's kind of where it all started. So, and obviously probably with Catley and Ford there as well, probably in the ears of everybody being like, yeah, cool.
Shows how much they rate her if they're willing to pay a fee when she's going to be available for free in, 3 or 4 months. So
exactly.
I guess she's going to a club where she's going to be respected as well. I think that's the most important thing.
I think with that fee too, I think playing time's probably going to be a pretty good thing for her as well.
Well, considering Arsenal's midfield is just like shocking at the moment, so they kind of just need players. So,
that was really the only thing they were missing too. When you look at their transfer window, they got Russo up front. Now they got Cooney-Cross in the midfield, and they strengthened up their back with Leah's just been seen running again, so she'll be back in the back. So they're nearly back to full strength, and it is looking pretty scary.
Yeah,
for the start of that season, to be fair.
Be a good season.
And they got Liverpool in that first game, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's stay in the UK. We've got Tegan Micah before the World Cup signing for Liverpool in goal. So it will be an all-out Aussie affair in that first week, which will be good to see. Charlie Rule and Mackenzie Hawkesby signing for Brighton, where we've just seen Lydia Williams come back home for. So big moves into the WSL for the Aussie girls, which is awesome.
I think it's great to see an Aussie playing for Liverpool again, and I think it speaks volumes of our depth when you've got two young players going to, I know Brighton's not like the glitz and glamour of the WSL, but two young Aussies who haven't been capped by the Matildas yet, getting moves over there, and by all means, even if they're not walking into the starting X, look like they're going to be there or thereabouts. And Liverpool has signed our third best goalkeeper. Like, we have three starting, not three anymore, Lydia Williams has come back home, but still, Tegan Micah, you'd roughly say she was probably third choice going into the World Cup. And now she's probably going to be Liverpool's starting goalkeeper. I can't think who else would be ahead of her. Like, that speaks volumes to how good our depth in this country is in terms of how many women's footballers we've got coming through.
Yeah, and I think that's the most exciting thing for everybody too to watch heading to an Olympic year as well, is that all these players are getting called up.
I think Charlie Rule has had a cap for the Matildas. I think she was in the squad for the USA games. Don't know if she played.
I know she's been in the squad. Has she actually got on the field, but?
We'll do a fact check.
Yeah.
We'll have a fact check moment at the start of our episodes, guys. We will fact check ourselves. So if we do mess up, we'll own it. But I think another country to look at for everybody who's probably seen the news recently, but France has had an Aussie influx as well. Big one, Claire Hunt to PSG. Big move from the Western Sydney Wanderers over to France. This one was kind of rumoured for a while and finally happened very late on deadline day. Huge move for Claire after a pretty solid World Cup in that back line that with Alana Kennedy getting missing, she kind of had to step up and take control.
It'll be interesting because I know PSG always isn't the best environment off the pitch as well. So hopefully it's not something that affects her or really takes her game backwards or anything. But you're talking about she's going to a new level, and she's going to a level that she won't look out of place at. You watch her in the elite women's, she's a class above everyone else. And in reality, without her, Wanderers are a lot closer to the wooden spoon than what they were and what they ended up finishing last season. She'll make that PSG squad better. I think that's the biggest compliment I can give her. The fact that we've got an Aussie playing in A-League that can go to a club like PSG and improve their side. The reality is she was arguably one of the best defenders of the World Cup too. So well deserved. Hopefully things off the field at PSG don't derail her, but all in all, you got to love it.
100%. Michelle?
Yeah, I think Claire Hunt, solid player, solid defender, and I think this move for her is, it's a testament of who she is as a person and how she is as a player as well. I think, playing at Western Sydney is all well and good, but I think she needs to be able to test herself and play in a playing group that is a level above.
Yeah, which PSG definitely has that talent with a lot of the French nationals and everything like that in it as well. She moves to Paris alongside Paris FC star now, Sarah Hunter, who has moved over there in the off-season as well. So that'll be good to Aussies in Paris, which is probably the first time that's ever happened as well in a footballing perspective. Really, really good move there. And I think we've got Ellie down in Lyon as well, which we all have known about for a while.
I think the most interesting about this is you'd argue Paris FC, PSG, and Lyon are probably the three top women's clubs in France, and we've got an Aussie playing at, even if it's only one, playing at all three clubs. I think that's, in a way, unprecedented, but it's also freaking beautiful.
But I think it's really cool too, because we've seen, obviously, a lot of Aussies go to Sweden and things like that, and now we're getting routes to England and France, which opens up so many more doors for those youngsters coming.
And the fact that they're able to go straight from Australia over there and they're not bypassing through a league like, and with no disrespect, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, like they're able to go straight from here to a massive club. It shows how good we have it in our own backyard at this stage.
Yeah, 100%. Last big transfer of the year was probably club-wise the biggest. Competition-wise, not so much, but Hayley Razzo, Real Madrid. Who would have thought we would have had an Aussie, first Aussie ever capped at Real Madrid, and huge transfer, huge name. How do we think Hayley's going to go in Spain?
I reckon this is such a good move for her. She was done dirty at City, in my opinion. After a really good season at Everton, like killed it at Everton, to get to City and then to just kind of sit on the bench for a very long time, a stupid amount of time. So I think her playing style as well, I think she'll like fit in really well into like the Spanish sort of style of football. She's quick, she gets into it, and she's got the skill for it. So yeah, I think Real Madrid's going to be really good, a really good club for her, a really good move. She has made her debut, which is awesome. And I really hope to see that, like, once she starts getting settled in a bit more, that hopefully she'll be starting.
Yeah, 100%. I think getting that cap straight off the bat too, I think it was like the second game they played in the preseason before she moved over, is really good to see her getting straight into that squad. Which is absolutely stacked. Obviously, she's coming up against Linda Caicedo on that right side for a starting role.
She'll have competition for minutes as well. It won't be. I don't think she's going to be one of those players that really walks into the side. But you're talking about, hopefully they give her a bit more respect, and I think you can see they hold her in higher regard than what City did. Obviously, after a World Cup campaign, she wasn't involved in pre-season that much. To basically come into the side, already get 30 minutes off the bench, in other situations, maybe they leave her out of the squad altogether and let her settle in a little bit, but they've gone, no, we want you involved as soon as possible. They clearly want to get her on the pitch. And the fact that we've got an Aussie in that kind of holding that reputation at a club like Real Madrid, where she's almost, in a sense, obviously the old Galactical term, that's what she's almost being considered as now. It's nuts. And it's deserved. Like, you look at what she's done for Man City as well, even in the limited time she played. Michelle, you're going to have to correct me on this. She scored in an FA Cup final, well, not obviously the recent one, but the one before it, the day that Sam Kerr won it for Chelsea, well, scored for Chelsea as well that day. Like, she's been involved in big moments at City, so the fact that they didn't give her more time, a lot of people were screaming for her to get a move away. I'm glad she's gone somewhere. I'm glad she's gone somewhere where she's going to be respected. And I'm glad it's at a big club as well, because it doesn't mean it's like, oh, she's taken a step down to get game time. She's moved basically sideways and is better for it.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think it's also considering that Barcelona is just like the top team in women's football, and in Spain, I think Real Madrid is trying to kind of step up a bit and give their women's team some more respect.
Well, that's why I mentioned the term Galactico, because I feel like Real Madrid are going through that phase where it's like, okay, yeah, if we're going to match it with Barca, we need to invest in this squad. Suddenly you make a signing like Hayley Raso, who's coming off the back of a fantastic World Cup. It's a statement signing in a way. It's like, okay, this is a big name, and she's going to come in and make an impact for us. We need that. That's what we need. We want to show that we're going to match it with Barca. This is going to be the player to do it for us.
And I think huge development-wise as well, like not only on the training pitch going up against probably one of the best upcoming talents in Linda Caicedo for position and minutes, but in that competition as well, playing against current World Cup champions and playing with World Cup champions as well in like Carmona and things like that. I think it's going to be a huge development cycle for her as well to head towards Paris and go, yeah, I'm ready. Like if she develops even more than where she's already at, we're looking like a stinging right side. It's going to be so great.
She's already one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Like if there's a next step, like it's going to be insane to see that happen. Great, probably segue here as a name who's been nominated for the Ballon d'Or. Her and Sam Kerr getting the honours of being nominated for the Ballon d'Or. I think we've had, is it 7 nominations as a nation, and Sam Kerr has 5 of them or something like that?
9 nominations, and Sam Kerr's been 5 of them.
Yeah, so insane for Sam to get another nom on that list. But Hayley to join that for the first time of her nomination. What do we think of the list of Ballon d'Or nominees, and where do we think that Sam and Hayley rank in that list?
Well, look, I know we're talking about it off air. Rata maybe was a bit dubious that she was the Aussie to be nominated as well. There's probably an argument there that maybe Ford should have been ahead of her. I was mixing Kerr and Ford there. That was really bad. No, but look, at the end of the day, we've got 2 Aussies nominated for a Ballon d'Or. I don't think that's ever happened before. So it's like, if you're talking about in the landscape of Australian football, this is wonderful. And you're definitely not going to knock her. Raso's a world-class footballer. She definitely deserves to be there or thereabouts. I think the only argument is the year that she's had. Has she really been one of the best 23 players in the world? We're making the argument that there's another Aussie that probably could have been there ahead of her. And there is that argument to be had, but look, overall, I'm not going to knock an Aussie being nominated in the 23, really.
But that also says how good our Aussies have been if we're saying one's got in and there's still a case for another.
The fact that we're debating which Aussie should be nominated for Ballon d'Or rather than should an Aussie be nominated for Ballon d'Or, I think that speaks enough in itself.
Tell me the last time someone had this conversation about the men's Ballon d'Or side of things. Like,
we haven't had anyone close in years.
Exactly.
I think Luongo was nominated because he had a good Asian Cup, and that was the long list. It wasn't even the short list.
Yeah.
Justice for Mas Luongo. I loved him.
Opinions on Ballon d'Or, Michelle? Besides Caitlin Ford not.
Well,
making
okay,
the
so
cut.
Caitlin Ford should be on the list, 100%. She should be on the list ahead of. I've got the list right here. She should be on the list ahead of Rachel Daly. She should be on the list ahead of. Who else is on?
That's
here?
a big call to say Rachel Daly.
Yeah, she should be on the list ahead of Rachel. She should be on the list ahead of Georgia Stanway.
Yeah,
True.
that's fair.
You know, the head of Jill Roord. Why is Jill Roord on this list? She had a good season at Wolfsburg.
I feel like you can tell the people that made this list have basically just watched the World Cup and gone, this player did good, that player did good, that player did good. Because these are all the names that I remember seeing.
It's pretty much all the
World
scorers of the World Cup.
I do think
It's a World Cup top 23.
Look, I think realistically, I think Aitana Bonmati will win the Ballon d'Or, and as she should. I think it's also really interesting that Alexia is not on the list, considering that she has won like the last two, but also she had been injured for a long time. She probably didn't have the best World Cup either. Like, it is what it is. I'm not mad about it, but I do think Aitana Bonmati should win the Ballon d'Or. That girl has won everything, seriously.
Yeah.
Speaks to the development of women's football. I remember, I think it was 2020 or 2021, Megan Rapinoe was named in the World 11 when she played 3 months that year and spent 9 months out injured. So, at least people are making some form of steps forward.
I think that's a huge thing too. Like, you look at that list, there's not one United States player, and I don't think there's any Canadians listed either.
No USA players?
Hectic.
No
there
USA.
is.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, sorry.
Party.
Sophia
Smith.
Smith. Sophia Smith.
Oh,
I'll
Sophia
take that back.
Smith.
Sorry.
You know what?
Sophia
She's fantastic. She had a good World Cup as well.
She had a good
World
World Cup,
Cup too, but she's
a great player.
Just genuinely a baller too.
Yeah, she's a great player.
But like, if you were to compare this
I'll crop
list
that
to past lists, like, I think that speaks huge leaps and bounds for the development of women's football worldwide, that we've come to the list where there's probably close to, out of the 23, there's probably close to 17 nations represented there, which is insane. So huge. From one award list to another, let's go FIFA's best, where we've got, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in quotation marks. 4 players nominated for FIFA best: Fowler, Ford, and Kerr. Which I think if you looked at those 3 lists, Michelle's nodding, well deserved. Ford made the list, is what Michelle's saying.
As she should.
But that just speaks, like, Mary Fowler had a pretty decent World Cup, really good with City throughout the year.
So she was
Ford,
another one I don't think got that many minutes either, though, didn't she?
I think when she came on, though, she did make a bit of a difference when she got those minutes, which is good. But her World Cup was probably pretty decent for a midfielder, Aussie midfielder as well. So that's attacking midfielder as well. But yeah, I think between there, and then we've got Mackenzie Arnold being named between the sticks, which is probably out of those 4 the most deserved on that list, I would say, after her efforts in goal for Australia at the World Cup, and even for West Ham as well during the season. Any arguments with those 4? Any people that we think missed the list that should have been on it?
Is it bad if I say Rasso? Nah, I think not someone that you look at her and go, yeah, look, she's probably should have been there. It's an argument, like you'd agree with it if she was there, you'd agree with it if she wasn't. I guess it's one of those, like, kind of petering on the fine line. Fowler, I think I said it before, like, obviously I don't know how many minutes she got this year, so maybe that part surprised me, but you look at the way she plays, the way she played in the World Cup, you could tell there's that ability that she deserves to be at least seen amongst the top players in the world. It's the same thing with Rasso. Maybe the last 12 months didn't do her justice, but she is still a world-class footballer, and going off how Man City have been set up in pre-season, looks like she's set to get a lot more minutes this year. So, the World Cup's doing her a lot more favours than that, but she's only 20 years old. We've got a 20-year-old Aussie nominated for FIFA's the best award. Like, that is sick. That is so good.
Well, Mary Fowler last season played 11 matches, 1 goal, 1 assist, but in the League Cup, she scored 4 goals in 6 games with 1 assist. So,
there it is.
Cup specialist.
Yeah, League Cup specialist. That's all she needs.
You got to stop somewhere. You got to start somewhere.
She has also
given the
scored,
moment.
I believe, 2 goals in preseason.
That was just in the last game, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, if she's performing in preseason now, I think she might have even started that game. Hopefully, fingers crossed, she's actually playing a full season for them, not just coming off the bench here or there.
Yeah, I definitely think looking at like City's lineups from from last season. I think that they have definitely put a lot more trust into her than maybe some of the other Aussies that were on the team.
Last honorary Aussie to be nominated for FIFA's Best, Tony Gustafsson, getting a nom for Best Women's Coach. I think the best thing about this list is the names that are on it. Serena Weigmann, I think, will run away with it. I don't think you could probably argue with the year that she's had with that England team, with how well she managed that team with the injuries they had as well. After winning, what she just won? Was it Manager of the Year or something like that?
The UEFA Manager of the Year.
Yeah. But I think what are our opinions on Tony making this list, I think, is where we're going. And this is going to be, for those people wondering, this is going to be probably a very opinion-heavy podcast as we go forward through. We're looking through our eyes as fans, as people observing the game. So we're not always going to be politically on the nose, agreeing with everything that comes out. We'll give you our honest opinion on what's going on, because we don't want to sugarcoat everything. We're not your mainstream media outlet. We're here to tell it how everybody sees it, and we'll give a voice to those that need it. So if we don't agree with everything that comes out, don't be surprised.
Look, I think that the names on the list are quite a good, solid bunch of names that are there. I think one that sticks out to me as well is Barcelona's coach, Jonathan Giraldez. I think he's done fantastic with the team, like to win Champions League, win the league, basically win everything that you can in Spain. So I think it kind of goes unnoticed a bit because he's not a national team coach. He just coaches like Barcelona.
Yeah. I think same thing goes with Emma Hayes as well. If you put them like domestic wise, I think those two.
I don't like Emma Hayes,
what they do,
but that's a whole different story.
Okay.
There we go. With Emma Hayes, though, you get more mainstream attention because it is the WSL. It's England. It's the most marketable league in terms of countries. England, obviously, with the Premier League as well. It's very, how do you say it? It's marketed well, so people see what's going on there just as much as they see what's going on at a World Cup or Spain.
It's also shown here, like we can see it,
of course,
through Optus.
Yeah.
So we're more familiar with it. That's why we look at that and go, oh, yeah, she kind of looks like she should be amongst those names as well.
But in terms of Tony G, I think Tony G is a good person. I think he's a really nice guy, and I like Tony G as a human being. I like getting photos with him and having a chat with him. Do I think he did the best he could with the World Cup? Obviously, we got to our highest position that we've never been into a semi-final before, and we finished fourth in the World Cup, which is an incredible feat. I think player management needs to be sorted out, though. Like, realistically, we cannot be trusting only 13 of 23 players to play. No, it's a joke. So, I think maybe his man management skills or player management skills, could use some work. But I think what he has done is unified the team a lot more than what it used to be. I think he's unified a country more than, any other coach has. Definitely more than Graham Arnold has. And I love Arnie. I think he's done really well for the sport in this country. Would I say he's the best coach? Probably not.
Big thing for him to just be on the list, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think alongside Peter Gerhardsson for Sweden, I think that's huge for those nations, and I think it's something for us to kind of latch onto going towards our next international push towards a World Cup. Is
one thing with
these
award nominations, especially in a World Cup year or for any major tournament as a coach, they focus on that kind of 1 month of that major tournament. They don't care about the friendlies that happened in the 12 months before. I know the award's meant to be for a 12-month basis, but when it comes to international coaches, that 1 month is your bread and butter. That's where you're going to earn your nomination. When you look at Tony G, when it comes to results, you can't argue what he's done for the Matildas. I mean, you got 4th place at the Olympics, 4th place at the World Cup now. If you're looking at this purely on a results basis, I guess, it looks like he should be up there with those top managers in the world. But then you look into the nooks and crannies of what he does on the sideline, and there's shortcomings. People say, this squad, like, it's good that we've gotten this far, but maybe we could have gone even further if we did this, if we did that. And there's valid conversations to be had there. It's interesting to say, like, it's such an interesting thing where we've got this coach who's taken us to new heights, somewhere that we've never seen before. and we're still finding holes in what he's doing. So I think if you're talking about his ability as a manager, there's aspects of him I like. I think he does set up quite well, like in terms of his playing style. He's got an identity. He's got styles, parts of his game that he's set on. But I think his in-game management is where he kind of loses a lot of people. Subs, like I guess you can't even say subs because he doesn't make them a lot of the time. Whether you're talking about timing of them, how many he makes, there's definitely questions to be made there. Changes that he needs to make within the game, tactical tweaks. He's very rigid in what he wants to do. He's got his style, and it's like there's no plan B. His plan B's almost to do plan A better, and I think he's actually said that before. So, yeah, there's definitely shortcomings there. I was surprised, I guess, when I saw him being nominated, but I guess if you're looking at it from an external point of view, a panel that's coming up with the nominees for an award, they're not going to look at, this guy's gotten Australia Force a World Cup, but has he made his subs correctly? Has he made the tweaks that he needs to in the game? They're not having those conversations. We're having those conversations because we care about the Matildas and we want to see these things. We want to see them get better. But in terms of results-wise, which is what these nominees are based on, he's done his job, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. He definitely has. If we turn our attention to home now, we've had some pretty big names announce that they're returning home. Tamika Yallop coming home to Brisbane, and Lydia Williams just leaving Brighton to come back to Melbourne. How do we feel about these transfers, guys? And for these big names that have been around the Matilda squad for a while to potentially come home and finish their careers out in front of home fans?
It's funny, honestly, because you mentioned those two names. The biggest signing's probably Sydney FC holding on to Courtney Vine. I think that was probably the one that shocked everyone. It was the whole conversation during the World Cup was like, okay, where's Courtney Vine going to go to afterwards? And now it's like, yeah, Michelle obviously is holding up the Sydney FC badge. Oh, that's lovely. No, but honestly, it's true. Like, you're talking about someone who, if she went overseas, would probably be seen amongst the best players in the world. And we're going to be able to watch her in our backyard, and hopefully there's 40,000 people lined up to see her in the Sydney Derby in round one. But that for me is the big talking point. Like, Yallop coming home, Williams coming home, they're both fantastic. But Courtney Vine, who is one of our top Matildas at the moment, and we're still able to see her in Australia. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think Meek's coming home is huge, though. I think it says a lot about Brisbane and what Brisbane's trying to build. And definitely trying to get back into that sort of top four spot that they've kind of not really been a part of for the last couple of years. They've been in and around the finals, but not really been testing too much in the league.
Well, last year they were a different side of that, Katrina Gorry as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she left, everything just kind of fell apart almost. Do we know if she's meant to be coming back at all, or if there's an opportunity if she comes back in Sweden's off-season?
I don't know, to be honest. And I don't know if she would. Like, how much traveling can you do with the baby before it's like, okay, like, we just need to
that's fair. You wouldn't want to put that pressure on her either, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be almost too much.
It's also a lot of football, like, to play throughout the year. Like,
You need an off-season. I think that's the biggest thing we've seen with the Matildas, like that kind of 4 or 5 years where they were jumping between the NWSL and the A-League, and now they're playing in England. It's all anywhere in Europe, and it's like, okay, yeah, they're just playing their season, and now they actually get 3 months of a break or 4 months of a break, and just seeing how much it's doing for them. And, you know, it's exactly what you need, I guess, in a footballer. You can't keep jumping across 2 leagues, and it's one thing I've always said with the A-League women's, the quicker we get a professional, the quicker the ones that are playing in the A-League don't have to then jump into the NPL for an off-season. As much as it is good to see them play locally, they need a break.
All right, so Courtney Vine, highlight of the A-League, I would say. We've already touched on France with Ellie, Claire and Sarah. Already covered Spain with Hayley Razzo. Let's go to Mexico. Now, we've just had Alex Chidiac head there on loan from the States. Opinions on this move? How are we feeling? What do we think is the future for Alex Chidiac, especially in Mexico? What does this move give her?
The game time. That's probably the biggest thing. That's what she needs. Racing Louisville, I don't think, has been the kindest to her. I think the only question I have over this move is the quality she's dropping down to. Not that the Mexican League is a bad league. There's still some big names. That's where Marta Cox plays her trade, Jenny Hermoso. There's big names that she's going to go up against, but would she have, I guess, in the only argument that you can have to what I'm going to say next will be the amount of minutes that she'll get to play over there. But what's the difference between dropping down to Mexico and coming back to the A-League? I don't think there's much of a difference in terms of quality. There's probably an argument to say the A-League's a better quality league, but she'll go to Mexico. She'll get a lot more minutes. They play a lot more games than what we do, unfortunately, which if we want to attract better players, maybe that's something the A-League needs to work on. But look, at the end of the day, she needs minutes. It's an environment closer to where her parent club is, so maybe that's why they've looked to just send her a little bit down south rather than halfway across the world. They can monitor her a bit better. But, yeah, look, quality-wise, maybe there was a better option to go to. And she's a good player. She could tough it out in a better league as well.
Yeah, I think she's been super unlucky with clubs. I think the only club that's kind of treated her with respect has been Melbourne Victory. So, yeah, I really hope that she does well. She's been coming off the bench in the last 3 games around the 60 to 75 minute mark. So, yeah, hopefully with more time settling in, she'll be able to play some more minutes and start. It seems like the club really made an effort to get her though, and they made a big announcement with her. So hopefully, it's a good thing.
I think definitely from that social response or announcement that they got and how much it's kind of carried through isn't something I wouldn't go that far if you weren't gonna use her as a highlight piece, which is really good to see. If we jump into Sweden, I think is our next big home for Aussies at the moment. We've already touched on most of it. We've got out in all three at the same club, Charlie Grant, Claire Polkinghorn, Katrina Gorry. Their season is almost wrapping up. We've mentioned that Kyra Cooney-Cross was in Sweden and is going to make the move in January after the season wrapped up there and the contract's finished there. So we won't be covering Damelsvegen 2. I can't say that. Cody, can you say that word?
Practice,
I will never be able to pronounce that, guys. So be prepared for bad pronunciations. There's number 1. We've got Charlie Claren, Kat Gorry at Vitsio, and Avi at BK Haken, which I think is most of the people over that
it's
way.
Funny, actually.
We've got
Avi Lewick at BK Haken. They were winning the league for a long time. They've still got the best defensive record, and Lewick's been a key part of that. So, I know there were a lot of people questioning whether she should have been in the side leading into the tournament. She was coming into that tournament off the back of a great half season in Sweden. So, maybe one that we probably should have paid more attention to. Obviously not on this podcast. I just mean in general as Australians. But, I thought that was quite interesting just looking at that, like in the lead up to this episode. Like, oh shit, she's had a good season, hasn't she?
100%. On the younger side of things too, over in Sweden, we've got Chelsea Dolber and Amy Sayer, who have just been named in the 23s. So that's 2 names that probably you should keep an eye on.
Can you pronounce the clubs right?
Norrköping, I could say that. The Amy Sayer's club, I'm not even going to attempt. Cody's a nerd. Cody's going to be the pronunciation guy.
He's Swedish.
He's Swedish?
Swedish. There.
I look good, I think.
Oh my God. Let's jump. Is there anyone we've missed here? Denmark, we've got Matilda McNamara at Aarhus, and Larissa Krummer is in Norway at SK Brun as well. They're not in the 23 squad.
That's one I can't pronounce off the top of my head, but I know she's either captain or co-captain there.
Yeah, in Denmark, 100%. Oh my God, we've got so many people all over the world, guys. It's crazy. But back to our main 23, which is where we would try to start this segue. EVE, Emily Van Egmond in the States at San Diego Wave. And then we hit the big chunk. Most of these players we've already spoken about, but there are some names that we haven't touched on here. We'll start with Michelle's 3 is how we're probably going to refer to them throughout this next year. Catley, Ford, and Cooney Cross now. That kind of rolls off the tongue too. That's going to be nice. We'll find an acronym for that. We got Sam Kerr at Chelsea, Claire Wheeler at Everton, Courtney Nevin at Leicester, Tegan Michael, Tegan Miker at Liverpool, Alana Kennedy at City, Mary Fowler at City, Kaya Simon at Tottenham, and Mackenzie Arnold at West Ham. That's for the current 23. How do we feel about where everyone currently is from that squad? Are there any names that maybe we look at might get dropped for the upcoming Olympic qualifiers and even heading towards the Olympics? What changes are we looking? Or if you were Tony, this is probably more for Michelle, but I know Cody's got some opinions here, but if you were in that coach's squad and you had that 23 put in front of you, what are you changing? What are you shifting? And
okay, firstly, I'm not selecting someone who hasn't played in 8 months and is still recovering from an ACL injury. So I'm picking a striker who knows how to play. So I'm picking Remy. I will always choose Remy. Remy Simpson, who plays at Leicester City with Nevin, who I believe was also injured. I think she had a calf injury. So there's that. But she seems to be playing in preseason. And was a bit unlucky, I think, last season where they were playing her in a midfield position when she's very clearly a number 9. So a bit frustrating for Remy. But yeah, like look, the whole thing around Kai Simon and selecting her because she's a big game player is all well and good, but like unless she actually plays, what's the point of selecting her? Especially when we had an injury crisis in the middle of the World Cup. So when I'm looking at the Olympics, I think one of the things that we struggled with last run was the depth. I think now we have those players, so we should be using them and selecting them, especially for these qualifiers. It's a good time to sort of pick some fresh blood. So get some new players in, get some new faces in, use them for your qualifiers.
100%. Big thing probably to mention is that of our 23 right now, we have a current squad average age off the World Cup of 27, which actually isn't too bad. But some of these older players been around for multiple years, been absolute backbones. How do we go, like looking at the future, Cody? Lydia Williams probably close to hang up the boots. Avi Luik as well, we've just mentioned. We've got everybody else is kind of still there, but a lot of players have been around and have been the staple backbone of this Matilda squad for a long time. How do we look at getting caps, getting minutes, so when we do come to that time where those minutes are being passed on, that everybody, when we're blooding the right people and getting people built into this squad where they can easily step in case of injuries and things like that, and pick up the.
Well, look, an average age of 27 isn't good. Is good now, but you're looking 4 years' time that bumps up to 31. So yeah, obviously you're gonna have to make a few changes between now and then. Look, I think the best thing with women's football is we do get the opportunity to play a lot of friendlies, especially in the lead up to the World Cup. So there's always going to be opportunity to blood those young players, particularly in the years leading up to it. But I think if we really want to make sure they're prepared, it does need to start now. I'm going to start with probably the least important part of this, and that's really the backup keepers. Lydia Williams is probably at a time now where she can probably put her hand up and say, I don't need to be in the Matilda squad anymore. She probably is arguably in our top 3 goalkeepers still, and someone you'd take to the Olympics if someone doesn't overtake her in that time. But you've got a keeper like Jada Wyman who's been in and out of Matilda squads for years and still hasn't actually got on the field yet for him, and really, really deserves to as well. So I think that's someone I'd want to see even in this squad, even if she gets a debut somewhere. I think that's something that'd be well deserved for her. And then you look at players like, I know Sarah Hunter probably hasn't started getting the minutes in France yet that she probably needs, but she's someone who's going to be a key player for the Matildas moving forward. She's someone I'd love to see included as well. Mainly, I don't know about the Olympics yet. Obviously, the Olympics are going to take your best 23, but somewhere between now and then, I'd be blooding someone like Sarah Hunter, players like Mackenzie Hawkesby, Charlie Rule, who we've already seen already. I did do a fact check as well. I'm pretty sure Charlie Rule hasn't made her debut unless I've just completely missed it. But they're the sort of players that we've really got to have a look at and go, yeah, we've got the Olympic qualifiers who can get them into a competitive environment, give them a chance then, or even after that, we'll be playing who knows how many friendlies between now and then. There's going to be opportunity to give these youngsters a chance to play. I'd be doing it from now, and not even with the Olympics in mind. I'm doing it with 2027 in mind. But there's players that are ready now to make that step up and make that step up now in probably a low risk because it's still competitive, semi-risk environment. It's obviously not going to be a competitive game against England. It's a competitive game against Iran and the Chinese Taipei. Like, we can take that chance, and then we've got players that are good enough to go into those games and affect it quite well. So I'd definitely bring Wyman in, maybe not Heyman, I was thinking Hunter, and maybe Mackenzie Hawkesby as well. I think they're three players that are ready to really step into this Matilda side now. And then obviously look to the future. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this person a lot over the next 12 months. Indiana Dos Santos, maybe 2 or 3 years she's in the squad as well. Like, we've got players that could be ready come 2027, but these opportunities now where we are playing, with no disrespect, lower quality opposition, now is where you want to see them really getting their minutes and really getting the chance to assimilate into the Matilda squad.
Yeah, and we got a lot of those names named in the under-23s team that is travelling to Italy to take on Scotland in 2 matches as well. So good experience for them on an international level, even further in that under-23s bracket, so we can kind of keep a good eye on them before we jump into Olympic qualifiers as well, which is awesome. Heading to those Olympic qualifiers in Perth, we've got 3 of them. Michelle isn't going to be on the podcast for those, as she'll be in the UK. So you guys will be stuck with me and Cody talking international. So we'll see how that goes. But the future of the show, guys, is going to look a little like this. There's going to be the 3 of us. We might get some special guests, I would say, some friends of ours on to fill gaps when some of us are away. But it's pretty much just going to be us talking about football, which is great. And if you have any questions or things you want to know more about, people you want to hear more about or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us on socials. We will be accepting of anything you guys want to mold this show into. As much as we've got an idea in our heads, we know that you guys are listening and watching to something that we want you to be able to consume on a weekly basis. So we want you to have the say in what we put out. We will be covering the A-League as our main thing, as I said right at the very start. The A-League is going to be our main focus, looking at what's happening in our own backyard. All 3 of us will be probably regularly attending A-League games across the year. Michelle and I are both heading over to the UK to see WSL games as well, which is going to be insane. So we'll have content coming from that. Everything else is kind of left up to the football gods as to how it all comes together. From a show perspective, guys, what are you 2 looking forward to the most out of this opportunity to be on a podcast and just talk
this
football?
Just see how it grows, I guess. Fan podcasts are probably some of the best ones, and they do play an important part in the football landscape. I've always thought it. A lot of the stuff that I've done with Front Page Football has obviously been from a more journalistic, expert-like point of view. But I've never wanted to refer to myself there. I've never seen myself as an expert. I'm technically semi-employed as one, so I probably shouldn't be saying that on record. But at the end of the day, look, I am, at the crux of it, I'm a fan. And that's what this is about. It's about people coming together, sharing their opinion, and hopefully taking the game in a new direction. And like I said, we're bouncing off the back of one of the most exciting moments in Australian women's football history, Australian football history overall. So seeing how it grows and hopefully playing a small part in continuing that growth and continuing the hype that's around the Matildas, and making sure that it doesn't just die out and then resurrect in 4 years, that there is this continuity between now and then too. So we've got the Olympics in a year. I'm going to Europe as well in the off season, but I'll be back before the Olympics. So hopefully we're doing some good content around then as well. But just generally just excited to be doing stuff from a fan perspective in general.
I guess for me, I'm just excited to talk about football. Love talking about it. Can't get enough of it. So talk about the greatest league in the world, which is the A-League Women's. So we love that.
Let's go. Hype it up. You guys will get weekly episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else we choose to release. So every Wednesday at an undetermined time at this point, you guys will get our voices delivered fresh to your ears. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, it is still yet to be determined. But we will be here, and we will persevere through missing people, through whatever is to come, we're going to be here. So thanks for joining us on Talking Tillies. Make sure you're checking out all our socials at Talking Tillies on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Hit the subscribe, like, and follow button like a good old YouTuber would say. But that's the way we're going to grow, guys. If you're involved, if you're sharing, if you're liking, if you're getting involved, leaving comments and things like that, we'll adapt, we'll change, and that's where things are today. So next week is going to be our final preseason episode. We're going to focus more on the A-League and what's happening here at home, giving you guys a more in-depth domestic kind of view on where our hearts all lie, and more of our opinions, of course. I don't think there's going to be an episode that we release that doesn't have one of those in it for sure. So stay tuned. We will be back next week with our final preseason before everything kicks off. We have the WSL kicking off October 1st, followed the next week by the A-League with a huge derby in Sydney that Michelle's going to be all over. Still probably buzzing on the Monday night. Oh, she's not even going to be here. Oh, great. So Cody and I are covering the start of the A-League, guys. Michelle's not going to be here. We'll figure that out, but we will have everything right here for you guys. So make sure you're following along, and we'll see you next week for our final preseason episode before diving right in. See you guys.